In this video, we're going to talk about pivot points. So pivot points are really important in 3D because they determine where your objects scale, rotate, and move from. So let's go ahead and let's create a cube right here, and let's just make a quick little model of a door, or very, very simple door. So notice that I am scaling from the center, and if I go to the rotate tool, I am also rotating from the center. So right now this is maybe a revolving door. It's not a very useful door for your house though, and I would like to make one that maybe has some hinges over here, and so I would like this door to rotate from this left side. So how would I make that happen? If you hold so go to the move tool and then hold the D key and just hold that down. I can drag this around and notice that the gizmo has changed to have some extra things going on. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm manipulating the pivot point. You can also tap the insert key and it will do the same thing. The D key I think is a little easier because it's right next to where your hand is your left hand is naturally gonna rest. But maybe if you are using your mouse with the left hand, the insert key might be a little easier. So you can just tap the D key and it will turn it on and off, or you can hold the D key and when you let go, it will automatically revert back to the original method of just the normal gizmo. So now I've moved my pivot point, and if I go back to the rotate tool, now my door is behaving a lot more like I expect. But there's one slight issue here. So even though my door is acting like a door, I don't actually know where my pivot point is in reality. I got it close, but it's not even really like on this face, and I would like it to be on this face. In some cases maybe I do want it slightly offset because that happens to make the object rotate better or scale better or something. But in most cases you'll want to line things up and be completely perfect in terms of where your pivot is sitting on the object. Maybe this location in space is where the hinges actually are, and I haven't modeled those yet, so I don't know. But for right now, let's go ahead and make sure that we've lined up the pivot with this face. So we can do that with a concept called snapping. If you look up here, you have these little magnet icons. So you have snap to grid, which is these grid points. You have snap to curves. Now, snap to curves is a little buggy, so we're not going to try and play with that right now because you guys might have some problems at home. We'll try snap to points, which is vertices. We have snap to projected center, so it snaps to the center of an object. I have snap to view planes, so that's your actual view planes. And then we have make object live, which means that I could snap to any point on the faces of the object. For this technique, I'm going to choose snap to points. Now I don't actually have to select this option. I could, and then if I moved my pivot, notice that it force snapped it right into the plane right here. Or I could snap it over to the other side. So what snap to points does is normally it would snap, if I click on the center, it'll snap to the actual point. But if I just snap it based on one of these axes, it'll snap to the fact that there is a point here, and so it knows kind of in every direction, hey, there's a point like right here, so the snapping can actually detect that, and even though I'm not snapping to that point, I'm snapping to the location of, the general area of those points. And that can be a really handy way to just plop your pivot point somewhere. I'm going to turn this off. And you can actually, if you hold the D key and then you hold the V key, notice that as I press the V key, the snap to points turns on. It's really handy to just use the V key and the D key, and you can turn that snapping on and off. You can also hold the D key and then hold the X key, and then you'll snap to grid points. And I could snap to any grid point I want. And that's really handy as well. So just remember, D is how you move your pivot, and then you can technically rotate as well, but it's a little, depending on what you're doing, it might, oops, sorry about that, hit the wrong key. Depending on what you're doing, you might mess something up. So right now we're just going to keep this as is in terms of the rotation. So you can hold the D key, and then the X key will snap to grid points. And the V key snaps to points or faces. Pretty much anywhere there's a point somewhere, it will snap the pivot. So that is a brief overview of how to modify your pivots. Now I have a nice door. See you in the next video.